My name is Chris Soares. I'm the creative director at Treyarch. We're doing the Spider-Man game that comes out next summer with Sam Raimi's movie. It's going to star Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, so our Peter Parker is going to look just like Tobey Maguire. You have a bunch of levels of Spider-Man action. What we've added into the game now is continuous web swinging. We've added a few more tools in for Spidey so he can get around the city really well. For example, you can web zip up buildings now. It's kind of like a quick rappel. You kind of rappel up the side of a building. You need these kind of things to get around our immense city. You can see cars moving on the street down below. We've worked in a few little subplots into the game so that Spidey would have a few other villains to fight. Really classic Spidey bad guys. We got Shocker and Vulture and a few others I can't really mention just yet. The big villain from the movie is the Green Goblin. He's a star of our game as well. And he flies a goblin glider through the skies, and so the aerial duels become a big part of our game. See, he's got web spikes and a lot of the classic features that he's had out in the comic book, like zip line, web spikes. We do a web dome where it's like a web shield. The Spidey kind of fabricates these web implements from his own webbing. You start out as a fledgling superhero in our game. You kind of take off from the origin story of being bit by a spider and kind of learn to use your webbing, and we do that as sort of a tutorial thing as you kind of find your way through. We have a number of pre-rendered movies that we've done that kind of push the story along, as well as in-game cutscenes that kind of take the character in and out throughout the story of the game. Some levels are kind of a race against the clock, but there's some other kind of puzzly levels where you're inside like portions of New York train stations and lots of buildings inside where you'd be like, puzzling things out and figuring out what you should do. Basically, he's a crime fighter, so stopping some different thugs along the way and henchmen, breaking up robberies and jewelry heists, that kind of thing. Because we're really tied into the movie, it's really Spidey's world, but we have all of his classic characters, so you have Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and as well as like J. Jonah Jameson, the publisher down at the Daily Bugle, and all the classic Spidey characters are in there. A lot of the outside levels, the way we kind of constrain you and to keep you up where we want to have you playing the game is a time pressure usually, and if you get too far away from your goal, then the level will kind of end. So you don't have a lot of time to get down on the ground in the street. It's really there for atmosphere. It's like any game. If you reach the edge of the world, you get sort of turned around and put back into where the action is. So the action keeps you up in the sky quite most of the time. Spider-Man's a classic comic book character, so almost 40 years of Spider-Man, and we'd like to work some of those little cookies and goodies into the game. But there's some other tricks and treats that we have in there that I can't really talk about that are along those lines.